Welcome, everybody, to today's webinar. I'm so excited. This is a new one for us. We're going to be talking about exploring the benefits of a member portal. So, going to talk about some key features that are prioritized and strategized for you using a user-friendly appearance on your website. So, I'm going to show you how you can engage on the next slide. Woo, Pamela says 150. Put in the chat, what's the name of your nonprofit? This is being recorded. You're going to get the slides and the recording probably later today or early in the morning. Put your questions in the Q&A if you will. Feel free to put them in the chat. There's team members here that will answer your questions in the chat. One thing I want to mention, there's going to be two questions going to pop up. It's a survey. As soon as you leave Zoom, it's going to pop up on your window. If you would answer that, I would greatly appreciate it. I'm going to move this out of the way. Like I told you, I'm not the expert here today. I'm going to turn this over to Julian Grace and Kyle Barkins. You guys have a great webinar.
Thanks, Aretha. So before we get started, I just want to give a quick agenda for what we're going to be covering today. First, we're going to introduce ourselves. Then we're going to get into what actually a membership portal is, some of the benefits of it, give you some of the technology we use to build these, as well as some use cases for them, answer any questions you have, and then give you some steps to get started on this and some other web projects that you might have. So my name's Julian. I'm the Junior Director of Digital Solutions here at Tap Network. So, I work with a lot of nonprofits, building sites, troubleshooting sites, fixing them. And I'm joined here by Kyle.
Thanks, Julian. My name is Kyle Barkins. I'm one of the co-founders here at Tap Network. My background's more in the application development and operations space. My partner, Joe, and I started Tap 14, almost 15 years ago at this point to serve nonprofit and mission-driven organizations. Oops. Sorry, I got a new dog and she's wrecking my office right now. And work with organizations like TechSoup to serve, the different nonprofits, volunteer, mission-driven organizations that traditionally could not compete with the larger businesses that Joe and I kind of worked with. So we took some of that working in our background and in our experience and our strategy from that space, and we hope to apply that to nonprofits. We've been a partner with TechSoup for almost going on 10 years now. If you go through TechSoup's website, which we'll show you further on this call, you'll see some of our services listed there. They're also an amazing client of ours as we work with them on everything from marketing to emails to landing pages to content and obviously these webinars and things today. You can go to the next slide too, Julian. As I said, we kind of take what we've learned and we've built from our for-profit and our larger enterprise clients. We serve clients as large as Denso, CSC, which are multi-billion-dollar clients around the world, to smaller local and national nonprofit organizations that serve their communities. So we help work with them to give back and work to give back to them and help with them to give back to their communities as well. Some of the ways that we help and we work with organizations, obviously this is sort of like a long list on this slide, and our experience runs the gamut, but everything from strategy to just general stuff like creative and branding, all the way into more hands-on and more specific work like public relations, managing HubSpot and CRM implementations. And then now, I'll say in the AI space, while we've been building AI applications and building large models for going on a decade now, it's refreshing to see nonprofits quickly jump into that space and us be able to help them and implement some of those tools, some of that strategy, some of that background there as well.
Great. So as we jump in, I find it's helpful to start with, making sure we understand exactly what we're talking about. So really it's what is a membership portal? That's what I'm hoping to cover in this first section. And to get started, I just want to put a poll out here. So what are you currently using to manage the members of your organization? Be they, volunteers, partners that are utilizing resources? Here is it a spreadsheet? Do you have just a basic website that displays information? Are you collecting this information in a CRM? Are you using a membership tool already? Or you're saying like, hey, I don't have anything right now, but that's why I'm here. I'm looking to learn a little bit more. Got some bloomerangs, seeing wild apricot a couple times. Great. Now, all the things that you're seeing can be helpful. A lot of what we're going to be talking about today, really shows you how a membership portal can centralize a lot of this data and even connect with some of your existing tools here. So the first thing I want to highlight is the difference between a portal and a website. So a website provides information, allows users to convert on things or even donate things like this, but it's fairly static. You're controlling all the content, and you say, here's what things are going to look like. Here's what the website is going to say. The portal is an extra part of your website. Sometimes it's a separate website, sometimes it's built into your existing one, and it requires some sort of registration. And when these users register, they're going to get things like extra content, discounts, be able to talk to each other, connect, find new opportunities and pieces of information. So while a portal is technically a website, when you're dealing in with your nonprofit, you're saying, hey, we're going to have this part of our digital presence be dedicated to all the stuff we're trying to share. And then this part, the portal, this is going to be where people can come together, communicate, and access extras here. So Kyle, could you talk a little bit about why these member portals are so important and sort of how they help engagement?
Yeah, so a few things listed here for sure. So the first is member experience. So giving them a place to engage with you all, engage with other, maybe the community you serve, other members, and have different tiers there so that there's, you kind of create some stickiness there and they can really feel like they're part of something. So this works great for everything from associations to even things like Boys and Girls Clubs, YMCA's, or a more, fundraising oriented organizations where they can talk to other donors, talk to people that have had experience from where the funding goes and things like that. To that point, it's also revenue, so it's a great way to add either another stream of revenue or additional streams of revenue. So whether you charge for memberships, whether you give certain discounts on things for memberships. So we have everything where we have clients that charge for monthly membership fees, annual membership fees, or maybe by joining as a member, you get discounts on things like some of their products that they sell, access to their events, their courses, whatever they might provide, or they might require membership for you to join their organization and scale from there. So this allows you to create a subscription revenue model, at really quickly and easily scale some of that revenue as well as you add new members. And then lastly, for this example, it gives you some control. So now you've got um, like with some of the things that you guys mentioned, you like even Salesforce or maybe a little Greenlight, those are great for managing who the members are, maybe some communication with them, but you're very limited in like the design or how it functions. So, it's kind of a one size fits all, and it doesn't do a lot of that sort of front end for people. But with a membership portal or like an online community, this is a great way to give you a lot more control over that, so you can just really identify what the right look and feel, limit it to just the functionality that you need, or also expand on it with functionality that you would otherwise have been more cost prohibitive or something like that before with these other tools or with having to put multiple tools together.
Exactly. So now I do have another question for you. So we know what you're using to manage these members. What's the biggest challenge when you talk about members or volunteers or something like this? Is it retaining them over time? Maybe there's a large number of a large amount of interest right at the beginning and then it falls off. Is it figuring out ways to actually engage them? They're like, hey, we want to be able to connect with you, but we're not sure how. Is it sort of the actual system of managing the renewals and payments? If you answer that you're using a spreadsheet for this stuff, this is probably going to be one of the more frustrating aspects of it. Figuring out how to offer this premium content in a way that allows people to access it and keep certain people away from it. We're saying like, hey, we're looking to develop this member base and we want the tools to sort of facilitate this. So I'm seeing a lot of engaging the members effectively. That seems to be a very common thread here. Member portals are great with this because they're literally made to engage people. It's going to be the people who are most excited about your organization, want to be the most involved. And so building this space for them can really help. So I'm going to go over 5 key benefits of a membership portal, give you a little more context for how we're building these, how they work, and sort of, how you might implement them in your own organization. So the first one is enhancing this member engagement. This is the number one thing that these portals do. So it's not just trying to attract new members. That's going to be, we're going to use members, supporters, users sort of interchangeably in this webinar. But, we're always going to want to get new people in and new people involved. But once they're in, we want to make sure that we're managing that relationship with people who have already told us, hey, I'm really interested in working with you folks, participating somehow. So it's going to, a portal is going to facilitate deeper connections between members. It's literally going to bring them closer together, give them the opportunity to talk to each other, collaborate. A lot of times, one of the biggest things you can do to affect change is just to find a place to bring people together. People may, be, perfectly matched and be able to collaborate and do something really great, but they're not going to have a common ground to sort of meet and start that relationship with. So here, the member portal, you can say, hey, all the people in here are really invested and interested in whatever it is your organization does. And then also, you can start to get really personal with the amount of stuff you put on there. When you're visiting a website, there are things, if you're using HubSpot, you can start to include personalization tokens in your actual website content. But then also, say you want to get a little more specific, you want to filter some things out, provide, direct engagement with certain users. Member portals are really, really great with that. So it's adding value to the stuff you're already doing, and then making sure that the people who are the most, interested and invested are getting that information directly rather than through some other channels. Speaking of, just, hey, we're going to have this one place versus lots of other channels, streamlining is a big one. Kyle, you want to talk a little bit about streamlining the membership management?
Right. Yeah. So kind of back to my little bit earlier point where you have different systems that maybe don't have a front end or things like that on them. It's really also nice to be able to centralize this information in one place. So having a membership portal that has membership management built in allows you to streamline things like collecting payments, registration. So, kind of it could be used as a CRM or even integrate with that CRM. So you can learn more, report on, make educated choices on how you want to grow that, and also start to see what type of people are joining, what type of engagement they have, are they're doing, where they're looking for things, what pieces are missing or what pieces you can take away. It also allows you to do a lot of automation, whether that's through the portals itself or through third-party tools that you might already have in place. So sending things like renewal notifications, updating them when their time's expired or they haven't logged in after a certain amount of time to try to create some stickiness and bring them back. And as I was mentioning, involving all that and bringing that all into one place so you have that insight to see what people are doing, what the type of conversations they're having, maybe if you have an open forum, what things they're searching for, where they're coming from, how frequently they're engaging. It really runs the gamut of what you can measure, and if you're able to measure things, you can also start to make informed decisions on how to engage with them in the future. And that should be able to lead you into some more diversified revenue streams as the, one of those key things. One way to do this would be, or multiple ways. We can give examples, and I think we'll have some case studies later on too that show how these could work. But one is having like a tiered membership level. So you might have like a starter or a beginner, or maybe like a guest, something like that. You could do freemium, which would be they start for free, and then as they get more access to more things, you move them up in the cost. So maybe you had 4 big events each year, and one of the benefits of membership is they get a better price for some access to some of those events, maybe preferred seating if you guys sell seats. They can add guests for free, so you can start to think of like how that could tier up there. Another thing that we see a lot of success with and we offer in most of these portals is things like premium content, premium or courses. So they're thinking about like, hey, if you join for free, or maybe on the public facing site, you can learn about our organization and get a little bit like a layer one of background on whatever we're doing. But you have to join to get access to our learning, or maybe, like I said, with associations and things like that, oftentimes they'll have a membership fee for the association, and then you have to get, validated or keep up some sort of certification each year. So by first step is becoming a member, and then you take the courses, you take the test or the training or whatever, and then you get your certification. So it's a great way to again create some of that stickiness and grow that revenue.
Great. Now, before I move on, I just want to pause here and ask, what makes an organization authoritative? And so for us, there's 3, main things that really help increase that authority, or at least sort of demonstrate it. First one is developing and sharing knowledge. So saying, hey, we're in this space. We have all of these, projects we're working on. We're collecting this data. We're sharing this information. And our third co-presenter has now made an appearance. We're saying, hey, this is all the stuff. We're a leader in this space. We're combining this information and setting people up to, make impactful change. Second thing is there's continuous engagement. It's not just, hey, we did something once, now it's going to be hanging out there saying, hey, no, we're still in this. We're making changes, and as we accomplish our goals, we're setting new ones. We're finding ways for people to get involved. And that goes into the third one here, turning individuals into groups. being able to take everybody's individual skills or whatever gifts they want to be able to share with your organization and saying, hey, we can take your piece and fit in with this other person and allow people to collaborate and, increase, the effectiveness of what you folks are doing. So improved brand authority is a really big benefit of membership portals. When you're sharing stuff, say on, a Facebook group or something like that, you're basically fighting for attention when it says, hey, here's all their friends that are on that platform. Here's ads. Here's other brands and organizations that are sharing things. So you're sharing a lot of the space, and it's really easy for the information you share to get lost. Also, by having this portal, you can say, here's where you're going to go for the most up-to-date information. So you can say, hey, we might share this in other places, but this is the source. This is where all of our work is coming from and where you can view it, engage with it. And, as you make this organization, a place where you can turn these individuals into groups, you're going to increase that advocacy power to be able to say, hey, we're now able to do more. We're able to work on a larger scale and make some bigger change. Last one here I'm going to talk about is just the enhanced member retention. So we talked about this at the start, but want to make sure that if somebody indicates, hey, I'm really excited about the organization, I want to be involved, we don't say, great, you can sign up here, and then they're just sort of like hanging out maybe on an email list or something. This is saying, hey, there's going to be something ongoing that's going to be valuable towards you. Here's a system where, if you want to, support us through a donation or a membership, you can do so. They can self-service all of that, directly on the portal. And then again, if somebody wants to, chat or communicate with the organization directly, you're not dealing in, DMs on another platform or, email that's sort of slow. You can, message them directly in this platform that's all dedicated just towards you, and then be able to say, hey, now here's resources or other conversations that are happening from other members. Here's where you can find some more information. So now I want to go over a little bit of the technology that we use to build these portals. And as I introduce these, I'm also going to give you some examples of some portals we built with a lot of the personal information sort of redacted. So just, no, there's not actually going to be red boxes everywhere. But I just want to show you a couple snippets from some of these portals that we've done in the past. So the first one here, we're able to do dashboards. And so this is where we can say, hey, people can post things. They can see a running feed of the information that other people are sharing. They can see, lists of the members and the groups that they can join and be a part of. Then also, have easy access to all the events and resources that you want to share. Speaking of member listings, when you develop your own portal, you can control what information is being, collected and shared about folks. So here we have a fairly, robust search form where people can search by the institute they're a part of, what sort of job they do, what skills they have, interests, hobbies, what languages they speak. And so as people fill out all that information, this here is a professional organization that people come together and share information on. But, you can say, hey, I'm looking for somebody in Chicago who has web development skills and can speak Spanish. Perfect. You can put all this in here, and then people, as they fill out their profiles, they'll appear in those search results. You can connect with them and just sort of get that going in the right direction with people who share a similar interest based on that organization. Another thing is member portals don't need to be about members talking to each other either. There's plenty of ways to say, hey, this is just going to be the place where we're getting information out to our most engaged users. So whether you want to share announcements or calls to action or just general updates that are special reports, you can do that on a member portal as well. The member-to-member communication can be very helpful, but there's plenty of portals who don't have that. So as I get into some of the actual tools here, I just wanted to ask, which features would be most valuable in a membership portal for your nonprofit? Is it the member directory? Is it the ability for members to communicate with each other? Is it saying, hey, we just need event registration and a calendar to be able to share all these events? Is it saying, hey, we have some special information that we put out there. We want to make sure it's gated and accessible? Is it some sort of certification or training program? Or is it saying, hey, we want people to be able to engage on different tiered membership levels? We see this a lot in performing arts organizations where they might become a member of a theater and get special access to pre-sales and things like this. So I'm seeing a lot across the gamut, a lot of B's, C's. So community interaction, getting those people towards events, getting them seen, some certifications, all of them. Yeah, all of them are possible. So that's great to hear. Here are some of the tools that we commonly use to build some of these portals. There's lots of others out here, but I want to talk about the big players for just a second. So the first one is BuddyBoss. This is what allows you to have individual member profiles, members to connect with each other, to create groups and forums. You can also bring in your learning management system directly in here. This is a screenshot of their demo account, but you can see a lot of that activity feed things is all based around BuddyBoss. So it's really helpful for when you want people to be able to create a profile and be found by other members. Now, there also are portals who were saying, hey, we don't want members to necessarily talk to each other. And MemberPress is a great one for this. It can be used with BuddyBoss hand in hand, but this is what facilitates the payments for certain memberships. So if you want to say, hey, this is going to be $99 a year, and then have people auto renew or be able to sort of cancel, upgrade, manage their own subscriptions, this allows that. It also allows you to do team memberships. To say like, hey, I'm going to have an organization purchase this membership, and then they can invite their own users to be able to access it. This is really great for organizations that revolve a lot around training or special resources to say, hey, we're not going to have each one of your employees come in here and sign up for something and have their own memberships. You can just purchase this, as your company, and then, share all this with those individual users. It also really makes gating content very easy to say, hey, we're going to develop this special page, and we're just going to put it behind this MemberPress lock. And now you need to sign in. You need to have a membership to see any of this. Anne-Marie asks, is there a download of this deck? It's going to be sent to you either late today or tomorrow. So no worries there. Another big thing is the learning management systems. So these are things where if you want to provide training of some kind, walk people through a course so they feel prepared. A lot of job preparation organizations use this. Or they may even, you may have an online training that you do like a webinar call and then have courses afterwards that elaborate on a lot of that information. If you want to do certifications, you can do so here. And this also integrates directly into profiles. So you can see exactly who is completing these courses, how far they are, all that information. I included a couple logos here. Lifter LMS and LearnDash are really big ones. Tap Network also develops a really great LMS that we can, help you customize for your organization. But there's lots of stuff in here where it's just saying, hey, we want to be able to have people learn something at the end of this, get a certification, and we want to be able to structure it without doing live webinars all the time. This is a little bit more of a self-service option. Finally, the last thing I want to talk about is WooCommerce. So this is a virtual storefront. It is a free tool. There's lots of paid add-ons for it. But say you want to sell memberships, but you also are selling, other physical items, you can bring all that together in one system. They have the same team memberships that MemberPress does, and it also allows you to get content. So if you are selling other things, this is a great way to sort of use your existing tools to bring all that. So here, outside of the screenshots I shared before, just want to give you an example of what some of the organizations we're working with, how they're using these tools and what they're using. So there's a caregiving organization, and this provides support for people who are caregiving for members of their family or members of the community. And so they're able to purchase training materials and talk back and forth for support and ideas for how to do this. They're using WooCommerce, WooCommerce Teams, and BuddyBoss. So BuddyBoss facilitates all those members coming together and communicating. The WooCommerce store, provides all the training materials they can purchase, and then also lets you do the memberships directly. We also have worked with the search and rescue organization. And so this is where it's like saying, hey, here's all the updated standards. Here's the meetings you need to know about. Here's any sort of announcements from the overarching search and rescue authority. And so they're using single sign-on to be able to say, hey, you have your special email address from this, whether it's Mountain Rescue or Search Dogs, K9, anything like that. You can say, hey, you can use this email to sign into our website, get all this extra information. That then takes care of all sort of the user management, because it's saying, hey, if they leave the organization, they're going to lose that email, then lose access to all the stuff that's on the site. The third one I have here is a literacy organization. So this is where professionals come together. They're saying, hey, we want to, release guidance on something so they can collaborate on documents They can share events that, maybe need volunteers at, and then also connect with each other, be able to collaborate, share ideas back and forth. They're using both BuddyBoss and MemberPress. So MemberPress is what facilitates the payment for entry into the portal, and BuddyBoss is bringing the people together. Now, we have a little more to share just about Tap Network in a little bit, but I want to, pause here and basically ask any questions. We left a good amount of time here. Use the Q&A function here in Zoom, and we'll make sure to get to it. Kyle put in the chat here, a guest asked, what about management of different levels of membership in the portal? So depending on how you're organizing those levels, there's a couple different options. One of the easy ones is that you're saying, hey, there's going to be a membership that costs, let's use small numbers, $1, $5, and $10. You're saying, okay, now we need to make sure that, we can set these rules up to be able to say, okay, this is a page that everybody can access with a membership. These are pages that only $5 and $10 memberships can access. So there's plenty of ways to do that when it comes to just sort of the paid tier. But also think about different kinds of memberships for what the users are going to be doing. You may have users that are set up to say, hey, I am an organization that provides services that dovetail really well with what your nonprofit's doing. So you can have them in there. They're able to share things. You might be able to access certain pages that they can create inside of your portal. And you may have just, program participants or event attendees and saying, hey, they're coming in here and they're really getting a lot from the other types of memberships that we're putting in here. So there's plenty of ways to think about tiered memberships and different levels. There's obviously that monetary aspect. And then again, saying, hey, let's look at the function of these users and see what the possibilities are there. Somebody asks, what are some things to think about for a small team looking to grow as an organization, as opposed to an existing org looking to do their work better? So that, I think, is a fairly long answer. It's going to be a bit of a conversation, but I'm going to try and hit on some major points, and then maybe send us a note afterwards and we can talk a little bit. But when you're just starting out, it's really important to have function at the front of your mind. So it's really easy to get excited about, designing new things and flyers and a lot of that sort of work that's a little bit fun and easy to do. But really, you want to make sure you're saying, hey, we want to exist for a long time. Here's the things we want to do. What do we need to set up in our own processes and the stuff we're doing, on our website when we're developing these tools, collecting information? What is it that we want to do, and how are these tools going to facilitate the accomplishment of those goals? So I would say, keep that function in mind, making sure that, hey, anything we're doing, we're not just doing because it sounds exciting. We're doing it because it leads towards our goals. We're setting up a calendar tool so we can share all these helpful webinars and get more people involved. We are developing this member portal so that the people who are in these programs together can communicate outside of the monthly webinar or something like that. So keep that function in mind, and that's gonna, I think, keep you very efficient, and then also keep you from getting distracted by some of the more fun and breezy aspects of starting an organization. We're saying, hey, we're going to announcement, and we have all 5 Instagram posts that say coming soon. But is it ever actually going to come soon? Focus on what's coming, and then the rest of that stuff will sort of sort itself out. So we have a couple more questions in here. Do you have suggestions for those of us that use Wix for a website rather than WordPress? So I will say that WordPress is going to be much easier when it comes to integrating other tools. Wix does have a membership aspect to it. So it's all built into the same platform. They are moving away from just being like a website platform to really more of like a, hey, they want you to do your CRM through it, your store through it, stuff like that. TechSoup, I know, has a great deal for 2 years of it at a great price. So if you're looking to just get started, you can find more information on TechSoup. But they have something that's going to be called Members. Then basically you're setting up content on the site, and you can say, who can view this page? And you basically say everyone, people with a password, or members. When they're members, they have their own sign-in. What they don't really have is the member-to-member communication. There are some add-ons that sort of provide some of that functionality, but it's not as robust or customizing. So it is a great option if you're, not quite ready to develop a completely brand new website and you just want to play around with it a little bit. But I would say if you're evaluating that, think of the function of what you want people to do on the site, and then evaluate if Wix's capabilities are going to match that. I wouldn't recommend just starting it because it's available. I would say, hey, you want people to use this, you really need to think about, what that's going to look like, not just the first month, but 3 months down the line, a year down the line. How is this going to advance the user's goals as well as the organization's goals?
I'm going to jump in too, Julian,
Yeah.
and those are all great recommendations. As we say here at TAP, like all the work that we do, we take this growth driven approach, right? So kind of like crawl, walk, run, or whatever. And if you think of things, if you hear from me enough, you'll get tired of me using my house analogies. But if you just think about like if you're going to build a house, if you just buy a small piece of land, you're kind of limited. So you can go up, but you can't go out, right? If you decide you want to add on to it over time. But if you buy a larger piece of land, maybe you never build on it, maybe you do, but like you've given yourself the ability to grow and to expand. And that's sort of the way we address and we look at anything we build from a software standpoint, and certainly member portals and websites, is building something that has a strong foundation that can be grown and added on over time. The reason that we use a lot of the tools that we showcase today is because I wouldn't say they're limitless. Like, yes, at some point you're going to reach a limit with those things, but it's an open source community, very easy for us to add on to. We can develop custom pieces of it if we need to, but a lot of it's also available, what I'll sort of say, with configured, with someone out of the box, versus if you're using something like Mighty Networks or using something like Wix, you're pretty much, what you see is what you get. You're confined to what they have available, and if you want to add features, you can't unless they add features. So you have to sort of request them and hope the rest of the community thinks that's a good thing, and you're limited to that. And that works great for a lot of organizations. They have tons of users, tons of subscribers, things like that, because they've limited it to that. But if you think you're going to ever be outside the box, or you ever want to grow and expand to something that they don't have, without having to add another platform, another tool to your arsenal, or another monthly service fee for something, our recommendation is sort of, I want to say build your own, right? But it's to start with a foundation that can be scaled on. And then the flip side of that is also not biting off more than you can chew. So routinely we get into conversations with people who kind of get distracted by like the shiny object, and they see, oh, I can add courses and I can add groups and I can add these things. But if you're just getting started and you don't have a large membership base, and they're not engaging with your organization in all those different ways, you're probably going to, first of all, overwhelm yourself with things you have to keep up with, but also overwhelm your members, so that so they're not actually getting some use out of this. Sometimes less is more, right? If you can just get them to do a few things very well instead of a bunch of things, or maybe never finish completing their profile and not know what groups they're in, then it has a snowball effect, and someone else joins that group because there's a group there, and they think there's going to be something, and then it's just empty, right? Just as an example. Or maybe I saw someone ask a question about sending communication, but maybe you don't have internal member communication because you're worried about what they might say to each other, or you can't throttle that, or one member abuses that. So like, just know what you're going to get into before you go kind of, like I said, bite off more than you can chew. So I think it's really important to certainly have a strategy and have a vision of what you want this to be, as Julian said, like now, what you want it to be in 3 months. And if you hit all your goals and KPIs and things like that, what do you want it to be in a year and 2 years, and then building a foundation for that. Just to kind of top that off, we get almost every day, somebody reaches out to us because they need something redesigned or rebuilt, because it's no longer works, or it's outdated, or they're on some proprietary platform that somebody built that can no longer be supported. And like, we don't want things to be built that way. And so it's like, look at this that way too. So Wix might, to Julian's point, like Wix, you can certainly build this stuff with, and I'm not saying anything negative about Wix, but be sure that, a year from now, you're not like, wow, I need to get off Wix, right? If you make that decision to go down that path and it doesn't have like the upward growth potential, this would be something worth thinking about.
Definitely. And, here there's another, consolidation is key to help it seem bigger. That's what Jane says. And so the consolidation does really, really help. And not just make a better user experience, it also makes it easier for you. So the more that you can bring in, the information, the stuff you're doing into one system, the easier it's going to be to minister it. You never want to be like, okay, well, this stuff is in this spreadsheet over here, and this we download a plain text file from this one, and then we send it over to this person who combines it all into a spreadsheet that we then upload over here. Being able to just view things in one area really helps turn things from a chore into something that, is actually helpful and exciting for you to do. So we want tools, not chores for this. And speaking of connecting all this stuff, we did touch out on the beginning, but you can bring a lot of this information into a CRM. So a member portal can function as a CRM right on its own. So you can have this information and say, okay, here's where we're collecting all of their, demographic data, the name, their address, things like this. But you can also say, hey, we're going to collect all that for the purposes of the portal, but then we're going to send this information over to something like HubSpot. And that's maybe where you're going to do your marketing emails or other sort of like lists and analytics and things. So any information, and here I'm speaking, directly on the WordPress side of things, but depending on the membership tool that you're using, maybe Wix, they might not have this, they may. Both WordPress, you're saying, hey, any information that we're putting in this profile can then be sent over. There's plenty of tools that connect, whether you're using a Salesforce, a little green light, anything like that. We can say, hey, when somebody signs up on this website, put them in our CRM, and then as they do things, continue to send all these notes over into the CRM as well. So it doesn't need to be something completely new. It can integrate with stuff you're already using, especially if you have a separate donation platform. That's one of the biggest integrations we see is that, the people who are doing donations and email, they want to be able to make sure that there's not going to be a manual entry or an import and an export that you have to do on a weekly basis or something. Plenty of tools to get this to happen automatically, even instantaneously here.
I'm going to jump on this one. Someone asked what the opinion on platforms like Circle and Mighty Networks, and I started to kind of cover this a little bit. I'm going to go back to my house analogy. Like, I think those are great tools. Like, I'll liken them to something like an apartment, right? So, apartment might have everything you need. It's got, consolidate, safe entry. It's got parking, off-street parking. It's got the number of bedrooms you need, and you can rent one or buy one. But you're limited to the size of it. You're not going to be knocking out walls. You're not going to have like a big backyard. You're not going to be able to really grow into it so much in some cases. And for many people, many organizations, that's great. And to keep things simple, perfect, right? And if you've migrated off to one of those things, I don't want to say anything negative to those, but again, it's kind of like, what do you want to do? What do you want to be when you grow up? Like, are you going to be okay with what's there and their features? And if they change features, are you good with that, or would you prefer to sort of control your own destiny, so to speak, where you can grow as you need to, you can add functionality, remove functionality, it can scale with you, and then also what do looking at what you're locked into as far as pricing, so with tools like this, like that we're discussing today, sometimes there's an upfront cost, there might be a hosting cost, but hosted on your own, it could be a one-time fee, or it could be fees for expanding upon them, but you're not locked into like a multi-year commitment or things of that nature in many of these cases. And then also just understanding like the size and like where the space is growing. I can confidently say things like WordPress, building on WordPress, which more than half of the websites on the internet at this point are built on WordPress. It's the largest community of developers out there. They have millions and millions and millions of developers working on this platform, versus proprietary systems, which would be they're limited to the size of their team and the funding that they get, and they're going to build for the masses and not build specifically for your organization. So sometimes it's a square peg round hole, just even to the point of a tool we use every day called HubSpot, which we would certainly recommend for organizations of all sizes. We've routinely run into people who they have a thing there called deals. Deals are basically the same thing as donations, but like, just because it's called a deal, a lot of people, especially nonprofit organizations, when we're talking about donations, can't get past that and understand that like it's the same thing. It's the same thing as sales. Like it might not be, you're not selling a t-shirt, but a donation is a sale for all intents and purposes. You're accepting money, you're giving them a reason to donate to you. They can repeat donate, and you're stuck with that vernacular in some cases. With HubSpot now, you can change that more recently, but before, if you're talking about these things, if it says member and you want them to be called, I don't know, user or something like that, you might be stuck with that. And then sometimes that's just hard for people to overcome. Where if you have more flexibility in the tool, you can rename those to, funder or member or guest, or like, if you have some proprietary name for what you call your members, like you can rename those things. So there's just a little bit more flexibility in some of those tools. But again, it's kind of teach their own. Like Mighty Networks, you could probably sign up today and have members signing up for this stuff tomorrow. Building something custom for you might take a little longer. Putting something together that's sort of like templated of sorts, like would be sort of like a happy medium where it might be branded for you but not completely custom, could be, very comparable in time to launch.
Very well said. We have a question from Dan here who asks, my issue is that there are so many account logins for a member, the website, booking system, project manager, and more. Is there a way to just have a single login for these things? And so, I think that's starting to touch on, what Kyle just said here. I think there's two main paths you can take, and one is much more attractive than the other. The first one is to, sign up for something where somebody gets an email address or even uses an existing one, and then you use single sign-on. So you're signing in with your Google account everywhere or something like that. Now that's going to be very dependent on the features that your tools offer. Going to be just a lot of extra integration work. And again, you don't have the control over all these things. My main recommendation would be to build a portal to incorporate all of them into one system. So when they are logged in to one, they're logged into all the other ones. So there's plenty of tools out there for project managing specifically, very similar to like a Basecamp or like a ClickUp or a Monday.com. Something where you can have tasks and projects laid out, all your Kanban boards and things like that. Same thing for booking systems. Depending on exactly what you're booking, whether it's physical space somewhere, whether it's a consultation call somewhere. There's plenty of things to integrate into portals already for that. And then again, obviously when they log into the website, they'll log in there. You're also able to sort of, one thing I guess we haven't really touched on is, so when they are logging into the site, there's a lot of stuff they can do on the front end. Maybe you have a membership type that an organization can come in and create a profile on their own. You can sort of selectively grant access to backend features and say, hey, you can only come in and the only thing you're going to see in the backend is the page that's built for you. So they can update the content on their own. That usually helps keep things a little more up to date. So then people don't need to maybe like fill out a form or reach out to you with information changes. And then you need to do it yourself. It allows them sort of self-service and keep everything, updated there. So I would say if you're having this issue where there's so many separate things that are all out there, much like Kyle's Mighty Network thing, hey, you can sign up and get this up and running, by tomorrow. Maybe spend a little more time and bring them all together into one system. It's going to be easier for you and easier for the users too. Ron asks in the chat a little bit ago, is a group communication feature similar to the old school kind of shared comments SW? I'm not sure exactly what that is, but the group communication, there's a couple aspects to it. First of all, say you're going to use BuddyBoss. That's going to be one that's great for member-to-member communication. You're going to have a big public wall that people can post on. Think of it like a rolling community notification thing. You're then going to have direct messages that you can turn on or off for folks. You're then going to have specific groups, which have their own sort of scrolling message board, in there. And then you can also have forums, and those are great. It's going to be very similar to, traditional message boards or like a Reddit or something like that. You have large topics, people create posts within them, and then people can have, tiered comments back and forth that direction. So depending on exactly how you want members to talk to each other, talk to you, there's plenty of ways that you can start to, implement one or all of those features if you'd like. Let me just see anything in here. We're going to wrap up the Q&A portion in just a little bit. So if you have any questions, make sure to put them in the chat right now. All right. We'll give everybody 5 more seconds just to put anything in there. But hopefully, as we've been talking through this information, you can start to see some of the things you can do with the membership portal. Now, we went a little sort of wide here. So each organization is going to be different. You're going to have different needs. And that, even breaks down to the tools you use and the layout for the things that you're building. So that customizability can be very important. But hopefully you can see like, hey, these can be helpful in, all these different ways. And here are some tools to help get you started. So in that vein, just to say, hey, this sounds great. How are we going to get started? Kyle, would you like to walk through some of the portal and website stuff that we offer?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first one, just a special for this month for this webinar, we're offering a custom portal custom member portal for $5,000, starting at $5,000. It's going to be a lot of what Julian showed today, custom branded. So it's going to your look and feel. We can include the things like the forums directory, events calendar. Again, like this is going to be, you guys being specific on what you want as part of that. I would recommend probably not launching with all that, but deciding what you want. But some of that stuff's available really once we build it. So with you guys just turning it on, turning it off because it's already built that way from the beginning. Resource centers. So sorry, Julian. So as we talked about, it's going to be mobile friendly and accessible, sort of quote unquote out of the box because of the way we design it. It's going to give you the ability to do like drag and drop editing the different things on the different page types. So if you think of like a member profile page or like a forum page or a listing page, like you'll have control over editing those in the future. So you don't need to call me and ask me to do it every single time. We're obviously happy to help, but we build everything so that our customers can take it and run with it, and they don't need to rely on us after the fact. We'll do all the setup, we'll do the branding, we'll do the support, and as we said, we have ongoing retainers. We think this is a good fit for small and growing nonprofits if you want to be able to engage. This might not, I would say the starter one, so to speak, is not going to be the best fit for someone who's migrating from another platform, only because sometimes those migrations can get tricky and we don't want the price to be like, not that it's going to be that much more expensive, but we don't want it to be like a sticker shock for you all when we figure out we have to manually migrate users over or something like that, depending on what platform you're from. There's plenty of platforms we can migrate from almost automatically, but we just can't, guarantee that on this call. So there's a link in this. You'll get to schedule a consultation with our team. Jason actually just posted one that goes directly to him as well. If you want to talk about this and see if see what this would entail for you all, and I'll answer somebody's question. What's the monthly cost of the initial $5,000? Depends how you want to move forward. We can host it for you. Our hosting includes the cost of any licenses that we would include in the build of this. So it'd be one bundled price. Our hosting is $124, $125 a month for nonprofits. That's managed hosting for a single WordPress site, does all the security and updates and things like that for the website itself. Work would be additional, like if you wanted us to build new pages and things like that would be in addition to that, but otherwise that's the cost. The nice thing about that versus something like Mighty Networks or one of these other ones is like our pricing doesn't scale with number of users, where a lot of these are, kind of capped at like, $200 a month for up to 1,000 users. From 1,000 to 5,000, it's $300 a month and so on. We don't have that same sort of cap on users. Sorry, Julian. The next one is if you want something more custom, certainly like we talked about growth-driven custom website development. So this could be a combination of a new website and a member portal as part of that. It could be just a new website. It could be any type of kind of custom thing in between. These start around $15,000. We certainly have prices that are lower than this for just website development or website design. But these are really good for nonprofit organizations that have outgrown their current content management system or current portal. So things, maybe you want to move away from Wix to something that's more scalable for you. Maybe you've been on Circle and you want to add some more features and functionality, and you want to redesign that, make it more, branded for you, more your look and feel. This would be a great option for that. Same thing here, just reach out to that link that Jason shared or the link on the other slide or later in this slide, where we'll walk through these different stages, where we'd start with strategy. So we'd do a whole discovery process. We look at your current content, what content you want to add. Then we develop a scope of work, be very specific to what we're going to include in building the site out. Once we have that scope of work agreed on, then we build the content and do the design, or restructure the content and do the design. So that's like making recommendations on content, what the design should look like, what the layout should look like. I'm gonna add more to this real quick here, because content's becoming more and more, it's always been important, but it's getting more and more important now as we're seeing such a big shift to AI from like traditional SEO. People are using ChatGPT basically as their search engine, for lack of other examples, as their search engine now, and they're landing right on the answer. And what that means is if you aren't that answer, if you don't have that answer on your site, you're not that source of information, your website might not ever get visited, right? And you're not going to be where that person ends up. I saw a stat the other day, and I don't have it in front of me, but it was like website traffic for the first half of 2025 is down 40% year over year. And that doesn't mean return visitors. And this is where the value of having a membership portal comes into play, because that website traffic's not going down. Your members aren't going somewhere else, but net new visitors. So like people aren't coming to your website for the first time at the same level that they would, in previous years, because people are finding their answers right away, and they no longer have to search for something, then look through the first 10 results on Google, then click on the one that looks like the most relevant to them, and then look at that site and see if that's it. They're getting right to the answer, right? They're, how can I support this, or where can I go for support for this stuff? And they're provided the most relevant answer. So which means content and website structure are so much more important than they've ever been. So that those models and those systems know that, hey, your organization is that answer and is the right answer, and they trust you, and other people are saying the same thing. So big piece of this is certainly that content phase. Once we've done that, once we've decided what the design is going to look like, then we start to build it, right? So if I use my house analogy, the strategy is what you want your house to look like, the content design is the blueprint, and then development is us building the house. So we would build the website on a secure platform, optimized, as we said, for web and mobile, for any user, and then turn that back over to you, where we QA, test, and launch, and we work directly with you and your team to say, does this look like how you want it? Does this look like you wanted it to? Does it function the way that we said it would? We test it on different browsers. We make sure it's going to work, and we set it up to launch. And then at that point, the next slide, we launch it. So we can launch, and we can either just turn it over to you and good luck. And that might work if you've got the experience. And like I said, we build everything so our clients can use it, or we're happy to stay engaged at different levels and different tiers. One of those is either we call it upgrade marketing and retainer. So not just the website. This is really all aspects of, I guess, your digital presence, so to speak, where we'll give you up to 10 hours a month of support. You can make unlimited requests, and you have access to our team of subject matter experts and some of our training, all of our documentation on the different things that we have. Or you can move up from there to things like the premium retainer or a custom retainer, which would then give you access to a dedicated account manager, everything you see in the upgrade example, but then it adds on things like custom development, custom design work, ad management. So if you want us to manage like your Google AdWords and things like that, those would be part of these packages as well. So we can engage with you on those after launch. Also, if you decide, hey, I don't need one of these things right now, but I lost a member of the team, or I really need an expert in-house to help me with this stuff, these are great ways for us to really hit the ground running right away and solve some of those short-term and long-term problems. We will always have your future growth goals in mind, as we said, like taking that growth-driven design methodology. So we don't want to just be order takers. We certainly can. If you guys want to just send a bunch of requests to us and you want us to fulfill those requests, that's fine. But we don't, traditionally, that doesn't really work out well for that long, because you run out, you don't know what to request. You might not know where to request. You're better focused on fulfilling your mission, serving your community, giving back to your organization, running your board, whatever that might be, and you can trust the strategy and the growth to us, and make sure that we're leading you towards your goals. And then I think I'd move these slides around, so I was trying to jump into hosting next. If you decide to host with us, this is what we talked about earlier. This is what data entails. So we launched the website. If we launch it on our platform, on our servers, that you get access to all these things. As I said, you get the licenses that we have. I think we've run them recently. If you were to buy the licenses for just what's included in our hosting packages individually, you'd spend over $2,000 a year just on licenses. We have access to the enterprise licenses, so we pass our savings basically on to you. And then we also certainly host the site. You have backups, on-site and off-site backups of the website, and then we also have you get access to a Cloudflare CDN, content delivery network, and that's like nerd speak for just making sure that the person gets the files served to them close as possible to them and as quickly as possible to them. And then it also adds a layer of security. So if your website were attacked or something like that, this kind of helps block some of those types of attacks as well. Where you can find this stuff, you can certainly reach out to Jason Spangler. I'll give you his personal cell phone number. I'll give you address to his house if you want to go visit him. He lives down the street from me. He also posted a link in the chat here. Or you can go to TechSoup's website and you can pick from the services drop down. You'll see digital marketing services in there. You'll see AI for nonprofits, and you'll see website services in there. All of those will lead you back to ultimately a form to fill in and reach out to us. Just give us a little bit more information about what you're reaching out for, what you're interested in, as well as this recording. If you want to jump on that right away, and you can do that right now or anytime. But if you wait, this recording will be shared, and these the slides will be shared, and you'll have access. You'll get this link that's right here for contacting us. You'll get the schedule, the consultation link that was shared on an earlier slide about the webinar special. And drum roll, please, we have a bonus. You can download the State of AI Nonprofit Benchmark Report. We partner with TechSoup in late 2024, early 2025 to survey more than 100,000, I think, nonprofits, or we set the survey to more than 100,000 nonprofits. We got over 1,000 responses of organizations of all different sizes. We consolidated their responses here to give you an idea of how nonprofits are currently using AI, how they're adopting it, what they expect the trends to be, and then we coupled that with other industry benchmarks as well. And last one, we also have a free download for like if you're redesigning your homepage, redesigning your website, and back to my point earlier on content. This guide is just a checklist to kind of give you like how to design and redesign your homepage to make it like highly convert. This is available just to webinar attendees. Otherwise, it's like a gated paid thing or something like that. So just something quick, a great resource as you guys are either trying to sell this stuff up to the board or looking at how to refresh the homepage without maybe jumping in and doing a whole redesign. A good way to structure how the content is laid out so it's easy for visitors or any visitor to consume and really understand who your organization is, what they do, and why they should be on your website and do whatever they need to do as to support you. And with 4 minutes to spare, thank you all for your time. There's a bunch of links in the chat. You can reach out to us right here, info@tapnetwork.com. You can come right to our website, tapnetwork.com. And you can, as we said, go right through TechSoup and go to those individual offerings right through their website as well.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Have a good one, guys. Thanks.